I was assigned to the New York FBI office from 1972 to 1983. I liked New York because it didn't feel like a bureaucracy. It felt more like a bunch of people who had kind of formed their own system of how things operate. So it was around 1976 that I met Donald Trump for the first time. It was a direct request from the Miami FBI office to ask if I could conduct an interview of Donald Trump regarding an interest that they believe he had in purchasing the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach. The Fontainebleau had long had the reputation of being owned or run by the mob. That means that the hotel may be by name owned by someone, but part of it would be organized crime that may be running the operation. I asked him straightforward. I said, Mr. Trump, here's what we've heard. We understand that you have an interest in purchasing in some way, either financing or representing to be an owner for the Fontainebleau Hotel. And to that question, he said, well, I looked at it, but I decided, he said, not to go forward with it. If I wasn't working with the mob and someone asked me if I was, I'd have maybe more of an exclamation in my response as to, why were you asking me that question? I would say, in retrospect, I regret that I did not open at least a preliminary inquiry into Donald Trump at that time. I think he somehow skated on us, for several years.
Myron was enthusiastic about helping unravel Trump's past relationship with the FBI. For him, it was unfinished business. The first stop was Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, Trump's heartland, where it all began. It was here in Beach Haven that the Trumps first got into trouble with the feds.
Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father, built about 16 or more of these apartment buildings. He wanted to rent these buildings apparently only to white people, because it wasn't long after he got going that the federal government filed a suit against him for discriminating against black people. One of his residents was Woody Guthrie. Guthrie moved into the apartment in 1950 and moved out in 1954 because he could no longer tolerate Trump's discrimination against blacks and other minorities. He let it be known by writing a song about Fred Trump, calling it Old Man Fred Trump, and was not very kind to him.
I don't like the way my landlord's treating me. I don't like the way Mr. Trump is treating me. I don't like the way that
Donald Trump, when he and his father were being sued by the Justice Department for discriminatory practices, turned to the same lawyer as most of the big mobsters in New York, and that was Roy Cohn, who was, in many ways, Trump's mentor.
Roy Cohn was a legendary figure in American politics. He was sort of the dark, satanic prince of the McCarthy era, which was a viciously anti-communist, right-wing era in the 50s here. Roy Cohn was a guy who said never apologize, deny, 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 and attack. Always attack and counterattack.
That's pretty much been, Trump's way of doing business ever since.
Never said it, never thought of it.
It is fake news. It's more than fake news. It's corrupt news.
It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Are you talking to me?
In the late 1970s, New York was bankrupt. It was taken over by Wall Street financiers. Trump became the providential young man that they sponsored to turn it into a paradise for the rich. Using his father's capital, Trump portrayed himself as the savior of the Big Apple.
I had a great faith in New York. Primarily our purchases have been in New York, and about 5 years ago, New York was not considered very hot, and cities in general weren't considered too hot.
He went on to buy the iconic luxury store Bonwit Teller, demolished it and transformed it into the Trump Tower. These projects came to fruition at a time when New York construction was totally controlled by the Italian mafia. Ron Fino is the son of a mafia don and spent his life infiltrating criminal organizations for the FBI.
I had graduated from high school, and like other children, I had to get to work to make a living. My father brought me to Freddie Rondaccio. Freddie was the underboss to Magadino at the time, and Freddie arranged for me to become a member of the Labor's Local 210. And then I started realizing how powerful the mob was and how they controlled labor